After his meeting with Fulgrim, or the thing that was in control of Fulgrim's body, Horus had his mind racing with conflicting emotions, as he would go on to further inquire upon the fate of his brother. To this, the demon, now in possession of the body, would assure him that Fulgrim was indeed safe, though he was trapped within his own form, as this greater demon controlled his every movement, while Fulgrim, conscious of his predicament, could do nothing but bear witness to the demon's activities. His cries of anguish would only serve as a perverse comfort for the malefic entity now residing within the body. Upon hearing this, Horus was deeply appalled, but chose to remain silent, calculating the implications of the disturbing turn of events. Despite his horror, the demon Fulgrim would pledge his allegiance to Horus's cause, along with granting its warp-based powers to the war effort, whose grandeur were in essence immutable. In this moment, Horus would recognize the strategic necessity of maintaining this vile abomination as an ally, since the Third Legion were indispensable for his future plans. However, internally, Horus had resolved that when the time came, he would find a way to destroy the demon and liberate Fulgrim from this unending torment, since, at least in his thoughts, no one deserved such a fate, not even in the treacherous landscape of their rebellion. Until then, Horus and the demon-possessed Fulgrim had agreed to keep the true nature of the demon's existence a closely guarded secret, as the demon had no desire to reveal himself, and Horus understood that such a revelation could cause insurmountable amounts of discord amongst the other Primarchs who had committed themselves to the traitor's cause. Thus, the pact was sealed with unspoken words, and Horus, now more than ever, was aware of the high-stakes game he had thrust himself into, along with the betrayal that defined their dark path. 4 solar days after the Dropsite massacre on Isstvan V, Horus Lupercal would create a convention of the Primarchs who had renounced their loyalty to the Imperium aboard his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. There, they were acutely aware of the stakes of their impending campaign and the role of each Primarch and their legion within. The traitors' fleets were mobilizing and preparing for a great assault on the Imperium, the likes of which it had never known. This assembly was significant as it marked the first gathering of the full fraternity of traitor Primarchs, sans the actual Fulgrim. But this is something only Horus knew. 8 Primarchs were present, though only half would attend in person. These included Fulgrim, Perturabo, Angron, and Lorgar Aurelian. The 4 others, Conrad Kurz, Mortarion, Alfarius, and Magnus the Red, had appeared as holographic projections. Magnus's image in particular was notable for its silver radiance, projected by sorcerer's means from his sorcerer's planet, rather than through technological means, and it was there that he was still recovering from the recent burning of Prospero by Leman Russ's own Space Wolves, who were under the orders of Horus Lupercal to attack. As the council began, Lorgar Aurelian, now seated at the table physically, could not tear his gaze away from Fulgrim, as he suspected something. Horus was notably wary of his brother's behavior and inattentiveness, sensed the mounting tension. As the meeting had barely commenced when Lorgar, with deliberate slowness, reached for his ornate Crozius mace on his back. His eyes, flickering with cold resolve, remained fixed on Fulgrim, as the atmosphere would grow palpably colder as a psychic force began to rim the atmosphere. And this was notable not just for those physically present, but it was attested to by those who were thousands of miles away. This gathering of traitors was intended to solidify their unity. However, it now teetered on the edge of violence and distrust, foreshadowing many of the dark events that would come to pass. The tension in the room reached a palpable climax as the word-bearer's Primarch, Lorgar, leveled an accusation against the being mimicking his brother. Without warning, Lorgar's Crozius mace crashed into the figure who was pretending to be the Emperor's Children's Primarch, Fulgrim, hurling him into the back of a wall, where he crumpled to the ground. Lorgar's fierce eyes scanned the assembled brothers, as he declared that the fallen figure was not Fulgrim. The other Primarchs, sensing the gravity of the claim, drew their weapons and advanced. Horus, the War Master, attempted to placate Lorgar, whose mere threat of confrontation had previously been enough to deter rash actions. However, the changes in Lorgar since Isstvan V were unequivocally evident. Even to Horus, clutching his mace, Lorgar warned them to stay back, as his crimson gauntlets shone in stark contrast to his icy determination. Horus, seeking to defuse the situation, tried once more to calm the enraged Lorgar. To Lorgar's surprise, the War Master's words revealed that he had already been aware that the being before them was not truly Fulgrim. Horus then informed them that he would personally handle the matter. Then he dismissed them from his chamber, with the exception of Lorgar. The word-bearer's Primarch could see the truth. This creature was a demon of chaos, puppeteering the hollow shell of their brother. Lorgar, confused and enraged, questioned how this had come to pass and why Horus had continued to protect such a dark secret. The War Master would go on to explain that he had not orchestrated Fulgrim's demise, and that he was merely contending and containing the aftermath. Horus's admission revealed a grim reality. The demon that now inhabited Fulgrim's body was a powerful warp entity, and that Horus deemed it necessary to keep the creature as an ally for the time being. However, he secretly resolved to destroy the demon and rescue Fulgrim, and it appears that Lorgar had similar thoughts. Thus, the stage was set for the new phase in the heresy, where loyalty and deception would be intertwined, and the true cost of rebellion now made itself evident, as it was far darker than that which they had previously imagined. After the meeting, Lorgar was notably deeply unsettled by the realization that another sentience now inhabited his brother's body. Horus, who had already been annoyed, questioned Lorgar, who had never been close to Fulgrim, why he seemed so concerned. Lorgar would go on to explain that this vile intrusion was a perversion of the natural order, a disharmony that contrasted starkly with his own blessed demon-possessed gene-sons, the Gal Vorbak. To Lorgar, the annihilation of a living soul to house a greedy unborn demon was an abomination. During Lorgar's pilgrimage to the Eye of Terror, years earlier he had walked in the warp itself, standing at the intersection of the gods and mortals. He knew that this form of possession represented a weakness and corruption, a perversion of what the Chaos Gods desired for mankind. The ruinous powers sought to ally willing followers, not soulless husks, ridden by their demons. Using his formidable psychic abilities, Lorgar held the demon at bay. The War Master cautioned that might kill Fulgrim, but Lorgar, with conviction, retorted that the being before them was not their brother, but a creature he could destroy if he so wished. He threatened the demon, vowing to learn its true name and banish it permanently back into the warp. The demon-possessed Fulgrim, helpless against Lorgar's psychic might, could do nothing. When the War Master attempted to restrain Lorgar by placing his hand on his shoulder, Lorgar psychically commanded Horus to remove it. Unable to resist the command, the War Master obeyed, further highlighting the depths of Lorgar's newfound power and his determination to right the wrong that had been done against his brother. In this moment, the stark reality of the situation became even clearer to Horus. The Primarchs, once unified in their rebellion, now faced a near endless amount of internal strife, and the corrupting influence of the very sources they sought to harness for their own power. The battle for the future of the galaxy was now not only against the Emperor, but against the insidious corruption within their own ranks. As he withdrew his hand from Lorgar's shoulder, his fingers trembled, and the War Master's steely eyes betrayed the palpable tension within the room, as Lorgar stormed away from the council chambers in a fit of rather uncharacteristic rage. Horus would remark on the visible change in his brother since his encounter with Corax on Isstvan V, to which Lorgar tensely acknowledged that indeed everything had changed that fateful night as he departed towards his ship, consumed with contemplation on what he perceived as a profound corruption of fate. Unbeknownst to the rank and file of the 3rd Legion, their Primarch struggled fruitlessly against the chains of his own mind and body. Among them, only Captain Lucius of the 13th Company sensed that something was amiss within Fulgrim, though he chose to keep his suspicions to himself. The demon Fulgrim, sensing the latent warp-touched potential in Lucius, presented him with the silver demon blade, which once bound the essence of the lair demon. Now wielding the more potent Kinnerbrak anatheme bestowed upon him by Horus, the demon Fulgrim channeled its residual power, foreseeing Lucius's pivotal role in the tumultuous years to come ahead. After the conclave aboard Horus's flagship, the demon Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children's Legion received orders from the War Master to support the coming civil war within the Mechanicum on Mars. However, driven by his increasingly erratic nature, the demon Fulgrim defied these orders. Instead, he commanded his legion to launch a brazen assault on Prismicta 5, a crucial Mechanicum crystal mining world. In the turbulent aftermath of Fulgrim's descent into capriciousness, Lord Commander Eidolon dared question his Primarch's erratic commands. In particular, his dismissal of the War Master's orders, unaware of the peril it would bring. His attempts to reason with Fulgrim only further stoked the Primarch's paranoia, leading to a fatal misunderstanding, and in a swift but brutal motion, Fulgrim drew the anatheme and struck Eidolon down. The once favored commander was now seen as a potential betrayer, and with Eidolon's lifeless head in his hand, Fulgrim would enact a rather macabre ritual, depicting him as truly the monster possessed. Dipping the slain commander's blood into casks of victory wine, which would be shared amongst the Legion's senior officers. Among them was Lucius, who had been rising through prominence as he silently observed the grim spectacle. Troubled by his lord's unraveling sanity and haunted by the unsettling dreams involving the painting of Fulgrim in La Ciencia, which was now constantly guarded by a cadre of Phoenix Guard, and due to this, Lucius had resolved to delve deeper into the mystery which was unfolding within the Legion. Amidst the mounting concerns over Fulgrim's increasingly erratic behavior, Lucius would note that Fulgrim's growing detachment from the Legion's tradition, along with his waning martial prowess. Once, his techniques and skill were unrivaled. Now, he could be surpassed on multiple occasions by Lucius himself. These observations deepened Lucius's suspicions, as he now knew something was amiss. The confirmation would only come during the assault on the Mechanicum mining world, where Lucius witnessed Fulgrim wielding formidable psychic powers against Mechanicum Warhound class titans, a feat that was beyond any ordinary Astartes. Compounding his unease were the recurring dreams compelling Lucius to defy the orders and investigate La Fience aboard the Pride of the Emperor, where Slaanesh's influence over the Emperor's children had taken root. Eventually, his Primarch's uncharacteristic use of psychic powers led him to deciding to explore the desolate chambers. There, Lucius stumbled upon a grand portrait over the shattered stage. Even in ruin, its splendor captivated him. A regal Fulgrim adorned in resplendent purple and golden armor, framed by the flaming wings of a phoenix, a symbol of the Legion's pride. This painting radiated an aura of unnatural majesty, capturing Fulgrim in his prime, bathed in a fiery glow of a mythic symbol. The portrait of Fulgrim was meticulously crafted and exuded a truly unparalleled depiction of grandeur and charisma, which his father was known for, a testament to the artistic mastery that had resonated with awe-inspiring beauty. Yet within those painted eyes, Lucius discerned a haunting anguish that transcended mortal artistry. The agony etched in the portrait seemed almost alive, haunting Lucius with a chilling realization. His Primarch's essence had been ensnared within the painting, while an impostor was masquerading as the Legion's leader. Driven by an unwavering dedication to liberate Fulgrim, Lucius clandestinely rallied the Brotherhood of the Phoenix, a secretive warrior lodge restricted only to the highest-ranking officers within the Legion. Aware of the perilous implications, Lucius navigated the treacherous waters of the Legion's politics, where senior officers, corrupted by their desires and disdain for him, posed a formidable obstacle. With persuasive eloquence, which he had inherited from Fulgrim, Lucius convinced his brethren that there was an impostor deceiving them all, challenging their egos and rallying them to seize their Primarch. In a daring ambush orchestrated by the Brotherhood, Fulgrim, or the thing that was Fulgrim, was subdued after a fierce struggle that left casualties on both sides. And despite the risks along with the internal strife, Lucius's gambit succeeded in capturing their Primarch, marking a pivotal moment in the Emperor's Children's descent into darkness. The Primarch was swiftly transported to the Apothecarian after being caught, under the oversight of Chief Apothecary Fabius, where he was securely fastened to an examination table capable of restraining even a Primarch, where Fabius, Lucius, Julius Carson, and Maris Veriocine had determined to be the location where they would expel the demonic entity from within Fulgrim's corporeal form, and they proceeded to engage in a prolonged ritual known as exoration. Enduring the torturous ordeal without resistance, Fulgrim engaged his captors in discussions about his perceptions of reality, escalating the influence of chaos across the galaxy and the envisioned future for his legion. In the midst of this agonizing process, Lucius suddenly comprehended their grave error. They had been deceived by their Primarch. Acknowledging their folly, Lucius immediately humbled himself before Fulgrim, realizing that the entity that they sought to expel was not a mere possession, but the true essence of their lord. Freed from his bounds, Fulgrim forgave his loyal sons, understanding their intentions and the lessons learned from their misguided efforts. With a profound revelation, Fulgrim disclosed to Lucius the intricate truth behind his elaborate deception. He admitted to being host to a demonic entity for an extended period of time, during which his disembodied spirit had been ensnared within the portrait, but rather than succumbing to despair, Fulgrim had utilized his confinement to master the arcane arts of the warp, and to deepen his understanding of demonkind's inscrutable ways. He eventually mastered these arcane insights sufficiently enough to expel the demon from his mortal form. Executing a daring maneuver, he swapped his consciousness with the malevolent entity, imprisoning it eternally within the portrait. It became evident that the demon had been communicating with Lucius through haunting dreams, in an attempt to engineer its release from captivity. To further educate his trusted champion in the arcane ways of chaos, Fulgrim deliberately feigned incompetence in swordsmanship to goad Lucius into confrontation. Expanding his revelations, Fulgrim clarified that his erratic behavior and solitary pursuits were not mere whims, but part of his transformative journey towards achieving the ultimate perfection under Slaanesh's guidance. He articulated his aspirations to explore the boundaries of reality through sensual experience, not for power alone, but for the profound journey itself, a journey that he invited his sons to join. Fulgrim disclosed that his directive to assault the mining world was driven by his desire to claim the Mechanicum's crystals in order to construct a magnificent city of mirrors, dedicated to the pursuit of sensual pleasure and self-enlightenment through sensory exploration. However, the next crucial step for the Emperor's children and their path towards enlightenment through chaos would involve a rendezvous with Primarch Perturabo and his Iron Warriors Legion. Amidst the ongoing tumult of Horus's rebellion, the Iron Warriors seized the moment to assert their dominance over their long-standing rivals, the Imperial Fists, on the newly compliant world of Hydra Cordatus. Victorious, Perturabo received word that Fulgrim and his emperor's children sought a meeting to discuss matters of significant import. Though Fulgrim remained cryptic about the purpose of his visit, he assured his brother of its wondrous nature. Perturabo, known for his pragmatic approach, noted that Fulgrim's panache for drama had only intensified since the Third Legion's pledging of allegiance to Horus. While not close friends, their shared pursuit for perfection once forged a bond between the two Primarchs. Despite their contrasting methods, Fulgrim's pursuit through constant refinement and Perturabo's pursuit through disciplined planning mirrored each other. However, Perturabo suspected Fulgrim's visit was linked to the impending campaign against Mars. Securing the Martian dominion was crucial before advancing towards Terra, and Fulgrim likely sought the Iron Warriors' aid in breaching the Mechanicum's formidable forge cities. Prepared for any eventuality, Perturabo readied his legion to devise a strategy to achieve this pivotal objective, that is, until further orders arrived, and Perturabo entertained his brother's visit with cautious curiosity. Amidst the preparations for the impending campaigns, news arrived that the Emperor's children had descended upon Hydracordatus unannounced. Over 300 drop craft touched down beyond the mouth of the valley where the Iron Warriors had established their encampment. The Iron Warriors swiftly organized to greet their guests, forming a vanguard to welcome the Third Legion. Tens of thousands of Imperial Army troops stood in rigid ranks alongside 200 grand battalions of Iron Warriors, 50,000 warriors clad in armor dust, burnished warplate. It was a spectacle of martial might, and a magnificence unseen since the horrors of Isstvan V. Yet Fulgrim and the Emperor's children emerged from the drop sites into the valley. Perturabo and his senior officers were struck not by admiration, but by bewilderment. The once honorable warriors of the Third Legion had transformed into a garish parade of noise, color, and spectacle. Something profound had seemed to have changed within the Emperor's children, evident in the disfigurements and the degradation of their warriors, which were now proudly shown off as adornments. Perturabo pondered the purpose behind such ostentatiousness, unable to fathom the motives driving these alarming transformations. Fulgrim's eventual clandestine meeting with Perturabo unfolded within the secure confines of the Lord of Iron's command bunker, where he was presented with an irresistible proposition, a promise to fulfill Perturabo's deepest desires without disappointment or failure, offering an alliance that could tip the scales of the War Master's rebellion. Despite Perturabo's suspicions, he entertained the possibility that their shared goal might foster a mutual understanding. The revelation came swiftly, though, that they would embark on a perilous journey to the heart of the notorious warp storm, which constantly haunted Perturabo's recurring nightmares. Within the tempestuous realm supposedly lay a Xenos artifact, the Angel Exterminatus, a weapon so potent that even the stars, or the star gods, depending on who you ask, conspired to imprison it. Unbeknownst to the traitors, their every move was shadowed by a resolute band of loyalist Astartes, survivors from the Dropsite massacre. These warriors were drawn from the ranks of the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and a lone Raven Guard, who had all escaped aboard a strike cruiser known as a Sisyphum. Their mission was simple: to thwart the traitors at any cost, even their own lives, and driven by a relentless pursuit for justice and vengeance, they would stand no failure. Following their harrowing escape from the Isstvan system, the Sisyphum navigated the perilous path through traitor-held territory, evading orbital blockades and enemy firestorms to reach relative safety, and in the ensuing months, the Sisyphum adopted a strategy of calculated aggression, as they became a relentless predator amidst the shadows of Segmentum Obscurus. Their targets were traitor forces attempting to exploit flanking routes, including scouting ships, mapping vessels, and heavily laden supply convoys ferrying troops, weapons, and vital supplies to the War Master's front lines. Engaging in hit-and-run operations, the Sisyphum struck swiftly and disappeared into the void just as fast, inflicting significant disruptions and setbacks upon their adversaries. Their actions were not merely acts of retaliation but strategic maneuvers aimed at bolstering the resilience of the scattered loyalist forces across the galaxy, forming an unconventional but effective resistance against what were overwhelming odds. Eventually, at Carvor Santa, Iron Hand Sabak Wayland, and a lone survivor of the Raven Guard, achieved a pivotal breakthrough by capturing an unilingual cipher host, a hybrid creature of the Dark Mechanicum known as a Cryptus. These abominations had previously rendered the traitors' coded communications impenetrable, but now with the Cryptus in their possession, the Loyalist commanders gained access to critical intelligence embedded within the enemy's transmissions. Armed with their newfound knowledge, the Sisyphum responded swiftly to intercepted communications indicating the gathering of the traitor Primarchs at Hydra Cardatus. Learning of Fulgrim's ambitious plans to venture into the Eye of Terror in order to search for the legendary Angel Exterminatus, they would swiftly steer their vessel, sneakily following the traitors into the perilous warp rift, all the while being aided by a rather mysterious Eldar guide who was determined to thwart the traitors' quest for the mysterious Xenos weapon. Joining the fleet of Iron Warriors and Emperor's Children's ships, the joint fleet of Iron Warriors and Emperor's Children's ships set their course for Lydris, a legendary crone world once revered by the Eldari. Said world was nestled within the Eye of Terror, as Lydris had defied chaos and the destruction surrounding it. Apparently, it just remained anchored due to the gravitational pull of a supermassive black hole, a celestial anomaly which was surrounded by an internal warp storm. This served as a gateway to the realms, a place where the laws of physics bend to the will of the warp, consuming all that dared approach its event horizon. This world stood as a dark testament to the climactic birth of Slaanesh, whose emergence had torn apart the once mighty Eldari, almost as if it were a jewel placed upon the galaxy by the god of excess, transforming their crone world into a haunted remnant of a lost civilization amidst the swirling chaos of the Eye of Terror, a forbidden realm of ancient power and perilous secrets, drawing both loyalist and traitor alike into its gravitational embrace. The culmination of the journey brought the Primarchs and their legions to the threshold. Once they landed on the planet, Fulgrim and Perturabo had their legions descend upon it in wave after wave, which in hindsight was rather fortunate since even though the planet was dead, its guardians were also dead but not in the same way, as eventually they would reach the sepulchre of Isha's doom, and within said sepulchre, the crystallized form of countless Eldari warriors would awake to combat those who they sensed were linked to their eternal enemy, Slaanesh. During this, the Primarchs and their sons started to battle against the Eldari's ghost warriors. However, Fulgrim seized an opportunity amidst the fray to slip out unnoticed. Understanding his brother's intent, Perturabo ventured into the pulsating green glow that radiated from the heart of the chamber. There, amidst the swirling energies, he sensed not mere elemental forces, but the distilled essence of countless souls, a testament to the grim legacy that awaited those who dared enter the sepulchre of Isha's doom. Perturabo would then descend the endless spiral staircase towards the distant point that refused to grow brighter no matter how deep he went. Their journey seemed infinite until it suddenly wasn't, culminating in a slender bridge where Fulgrim awaited him. The bridge spanned out into a colossal spherical chamber of mind-bending proportions. Bridge's footings were anchored at the equator of the planet's own core. As it seemed, each would also reach towards the central orbit of a radiant jade-like light that blazed like a miniature sun. Revealed now was a hollow world. Confronting his brother, Perturabo realized that there was never an Angel Exterminatus. Fulgrim confirmed this, asserting that instead he himself would become the Angel Exterminatus. Perturabo retorted with a mix of disbelief and scorn, noting his brother's propensity for grandiosity. Undeterred by skepticism, Fulgrim uttered a single word that struck the Lord of Iron like a blade, forcing him to kneel. Fulgrim had betrayed him. The gift that he had given him secretly before they headed towards the Eye of Terror was a harvester, an item of chaos designed to slowly sap Perturabo's strength and feed it to Fulgrim so he may ascend to godhood. With Perturabo being his unwitting sacrifice, Fulgrim believed that he could achieve apotheosis. With a forceful gesture, the Primarch of the Emperor's children flung Perturabo aside, causing him to tumble in a languid arc, until he crashed with a resounding crunch of metal near the edge of the shaft. Every Astartes in the chamber turned their attention towards the event. Fulgrim was no longer the same being who descended into the core of the world, as he now hovered above the shaft where the green torrent of energy had now dwindled into a fading glow. Fulgrim's armor would shimmer with ethereal vitality, seeming to contain the light of countless suns, striving to burst forth all at once. His eyes, once vibrant with life, now appeared as twin black voids, offering glimpses into the realms of experience and sensation. Just as Fulgrim approached the culmination of his apotheosis, Perturabo summoned the last of his remaining strength and rose to his feet, clutching the harvester firmly in his hand. As he advanced towards Fulgrim, his gaze searching for any flicker of remorse or regret hidden behind his brother's eyes, a sign, perhaps, of redemption. He found none, and Perturabo's heart sank with the realization that Fulgrim was truly lost. Confronting Fulgrim, Perturabo denounced his brother's quest for godhood, asserting that humanity had long since surpassed the need for such aspirations. Disgusted by Fulgrim's ambition, Perturabo hurled the harvester stone into the depths of the shaft, symbolically rejecting his brother. Suddenly, the chamber erupted in a barrage of bolter fired, as the Iron Tenth, remnants of the Iron Hands, swiftly engaged the Emperor's children and Iron Warriors in battle, turning the sepulchre into a battleground where loyalty and treachery clashed amidst ancient conflicts. The battlefield would then tighten its grip upon the Primarchs at its center. Perturabo kneeling with exertion and Fulgrim hovering just above him as if tethered to his brother by unseen bounds. However, amidst this tumult, a loyalist Astartes, the Raven Guard known as Sarrokin, seized upon the falling harvester, intuitively sensing the danger it would pose if it were back in Fulgrim's hands. Sarrokin would then take aim with a bolter and fire upon the stone, shattering it into shards, releasing the energy and revitalizing Perturabo. Fulgrim too felt the reverberating energy caused by the stone's destruction, for it held not just the stolen strength, but a fusion of their essences, a potent force capable of fueling a cataclysm beyond mortal comprehension. Fulgrim's gilded armor quickly dissolved into golden flakes, revealing a grotesquely swollen form, bathed in a furnace-like heat. The ethereal flames that covered him grew an iridescent pink and flickered a sickly purple hungrily around him, awaiting for even the faintest falter in his concentration. With a determined effort, Perturabo rose to his feet, lifting Forgebreaker into his shoulder. Fulgrim, sensing this impending doom, grinned knowingly that his brother would strike with all his might. Aware of the inevitability of this confrontation, without hesitation, Fulgrim accepted the blow from Perturabo's swing, which cleaved his body open in a rain of gore and viscera. Thus would end the tragic saga of betrayal and divine delusion amidst the clashes of echoing traitors and loyalists upon a dead world. That would be the end if Fulgrim had not planned for this. His body had ruptured beneath the impact of the Warhammer, and then there was a sudden, resultant cry, which echoed like a primordial birth scream. All the while, a surge of purple energy exploded outwards from the Phoenician's shattered form, bathing the chamber in a blinding light all too intense to directly behold, yet too mesmerizing to ignore. Like a birth of a new sun, the radiant brilliance became the focal point of everybody in the room. The aftermath of Fulgrim's transformation into the demon Primarch he would be forevermore, with a scene of cosmic significance. As Perturabo stood amidst the wreckage of his brother's mortal form, he beheld a surreal metamorphosis. Fulgrim's body elongated and morphed, his legs merging into a serpentine tail, armored with scales and chitinous plates, a form reminiscent of beings of ancient myths and nightmarish visions. This new incarnation of his brother was not merely physical, but spiritual, an ethereal avatar fueled by the warp, embodying the desires and the essences of its creators. Fulgrim's countenance was now a blend of agonizing torment and ecstatic bliss, which bore witness to the transformation, as horns sprouted from his brow, crowning him as a demon prince of Slaanesh, the youngest of the gods of chaos. With a mysterious message, Fulgrim would depart into the Empyrean, leaving behind a swirling vortex of arcane energy as he whisked away his Chaos Space Marine retinue. The sudden absence of the energy that sustained the planet caused it to begin to fall into the supermassive black hole at the heart of the Eye of Terror. As the planet trembled in the brink of annihilation, the Iron Hands, who had stayed and currently had a clear shot at the weakened Primarch Perturabo, decided to retreat back to their vessel. Shortly after this, Perturabo marshaled his forces and retreated from the crumbling citadel, boarding the safety of his flagship, the Iron Blood. From this vantage point, the Primarch witnessed the death of those still on the planet, as the Crone world succumbed to the relentless gravitational pull of the black hole near the heart of the Eye of Terror. As his flagship, the Iron Blood, strained against the gravitational forces threatening to ensnare it, smaller vessels of the Iron Warrior's fleet had already succumbed. However, much to his commander's disbelief, Perturabo's mind came to a single conclusion. Unlike them, he was unshaken by the conclusion. He knew their path lay ahead, at the heart of the black hole, not fleeing from it. With grim resolve, the Iron Warriors plunged deeper into the Eye of Terror's swirling abyss, their fate entwined with the tides of chaos and destiny. Eventually, after the apotheosis of the Emperor's Children's Primarch, the Legion itself would join in on the siege of Terra. However, unlike many of the other forces who came upon the planet, the Emperor's children had been metamorphosed into grotesque caricatures of their former glory, and rather than join in on the destruction of the palace and the besieging of the Emperor's throne, the Emperor's children took a path more depraved and sinister than any other. With a frenzy of blood and twisted ecstasy, they descended upon the innocent populace of Terra, unleashing a deluge of unspeakable horrors, driven by a maddening hunger for hedonistic pleasures inspired by their new patron god, Slaanesh. The traitor marines inflicted upon the populace a carnival of agony and debauchery heretofore unseen before or since. Billions of Terrans became unwitting pawns in the Emperor's children's ceaseless quest for greater sensations, be it as experimental subjects for horrific stimulants, vessels for demonic incursions from the warp, or merely victims of wanton slaughter. Their lives were snuffed out to momentarily appease the deranged appetites of their tormentors. As the streets of Terra ran red with the blood of innocents, the echoing screams of those subjected to the unimaginable tortures in the name of the Emperor's children would feed she who thirsts endlessly. Amidst this chaos, the now ascended Fulgrim would confront Rogel Dorn and eventually leave with his legion out of his own volition, abandoning the siege of Terra and the war altogether. In the tumultuous aftermath of the Horus Heresy, the Emperor's children, once exemplars of martial prowess and artistic refinement, descended into a frenzy of unrestrained debauchery and violence. Following their retreat into the Eye of Terror, they embarked on a campaign of terror and plunder across imperial worlds, leaving devastation and destruction in their wake. Their insatiable thirst for excess led them to capture not only imperial citizens, but also slaves from other traitor legions, which incited conflicts within the realms of the Eye of Terror. Amidst these dark times, their Primarch, Fulgrim, vanished, reportedly withdrawing to a planet of indulgence bestowed upon him by Slaanesh, the chaos god whom they had pledged their allegiance to. Left leaderless, the remaining Emperor's children congregated at the Canticle City, a formidable fortress on the demon world of Harmony, under the command of Fabius Bile, the former chief apothecary of the Emperor's children. Bile, now known for his dark experiments and his twisted ambitions, took drastic actions to maintain control. He orchestrated the destruction of the Sons of Horus fortress at Malum and embarked on a daring scheme to clone the fallen Primarch Horus, which culminated in a catastrophic confrontation known as the Battle of Harmony. This clash, led by Ezekiel Abaddon, culminated in a clash between a purported clone of the Primarch himself, Horus. In the annihilation of Horus's cloned body, he dealt a severe blow to Baal's authority, ensuring chaos within the Emperor's children's ranks, as they would descend into internal conflict. Scarcity of resources and a broken chain of leadership led them to prey upon each other. The once proud legion was fractured into a myriad of warbands, each vying for dominance amidst the turmoil of what would become known as the Legion Wars. Despite this internal fracture, the Emperor's children remained formidable adversaries, continuing their relentless raids on imperial territories, their thirst for conquest and pleasure undiminished by the internal strife. In the records of post-heresy history, the Emperor's children would stand testament to the corrupting influences of chaos, as their descent from noble warriors to hedonists of unparalleled depravity would become a cautionary tale for many a legionary. Out of this tumult, a certain warband would coalesce into what was known as the Phoenix Conclave, which was an attempt to unify the fractured Emperor's children under the banner of the once again revived Lord Commander Primus Eidolon. Their goal was simple: to reclaim their former glory and the unity of their legion. Despite these efforts, the Emperor's children would remain fractured and rather volatile, and in the aftermath of the Eye of Terror's slave wars, they would dissolve into individual warbands once more, devoid of any cohesion or discipline. The title of Sordar would emerge amongst the leaders of these warbands as a remnant of the fragmented hierarchy which used to exist. Today, the Emperor's children are synonymous with hedonism in excess, uncontrolled and barely guided by anything other than their own pursuits for sensation and pleasure, as they have cast aside their old traditions only to be replaced by the grotesque and lavish adornments of their armor, shimmering skulls, gilded chains, and sensuous designs that reflect their corrupted souls. Blessed by Slaanesh, their armor not only protects them, but enhances their experience of pain and pleasure, turning every battle into a twisted ecstasy where pain is pleasure and death is an art. Amidst this carnage, some amongst the Emperor's children have honed their blades to taste the blood of their enemies. Their depravity knows no bounds as they continue to descend into further and further decadence. Each time they become more and more numb to the sensations. A multitude of Emperor's children Space Marines would undergo radical transformations to what is known as a noise marine, aberrant warriors obsessed with the cacophony of battle and a symphony of destruction that they can never truly experience in its fullest, as they now only embody the excesses of Slaanesh. A noise marine has their senses mutated to extremes beyond all comprehension, but it will never be enough. Their hearing, for instance, has been enhanced to an astonishing degree, capable of discerning minute vibrations and changes in pitch and volume that elude even the most advanced sensory technologies in existence. Hypersensitive auditory perception, which not only sharpens their awareness, but also triggers intense emotional responses, where mundane sensations pale in comparison to the ecstasy derived from discordant noises, leaving them addicted to sound. The crescendo of battle and shrieks of agony, along with the explosive thunder of weapons, are the only sources of solace they have left. Named for their affinity for sonic weaponry, the now rather commonplace noise marines wield their instruments as weapons. Tools such as the Blastmaster, a rifle that unleashes devastating frequencies capable of rendering flesh from bone and overwhelming the senses of even the hardiest of warrior. The Doom Siren, which is integrated into their very bodies, amplifies their screams into sonic blasts, which can repel even the strongest of adversaries. Additionally, they possess a chilling ability known as a warp scream, a gift from their god, a psychic shriek that disrupts and disorients those unfortunate enough to be within its range. Much later, in a bold stroke that reverberated across the Eye of Terror, as the galaxy navigates the treacherous waters of the 41st millennium, the scarcity of Emperor's Children warbands offers a fleeting reprieve from the horrors they embody, though facing them in battle remains a harrowing fate. one only surpassed by the relentless cruelty of the Drukhari, especially since the destruction of Cadia has allowed Chaos Space Marines a new foothold into the material world. However, the enigma surrounding the Primarch Fulgrim persists as one of the greatest mysteries of the chaos-tinted cosmos. According to arcane lore, it is believed that the Dark Prince Slaanesh bestowed him with the ultimate gift upon his apotheosis. His new countenance seems to match that of a being that has been rumored to be seen in some of the darkest corners of the galaxy, said corners which are no longer accessible by the Emperor's light. The Ordo Malleus of the Inquisition has embarked on multiple quests to search for this being, be he in the elusive realm gifted to him by Slaanesh or in the material world. Historical records recount Fulgrim's last known appearance during the Battle of Thessalia, where he engaged in a fateful duel with the Primarch Reboot Guilliman of the Ultramarines, and in a display of cunning and treachery, Fulgrim had grievously wounded him with the toxic anathine blade, which nearly costed the Primarch his life. However, it seems that this stroke was actually one of good fortune, as when the galaxy needed him most, the Primarch Guilliman was able to take control of the Imperium's fractured domains. It is only concretely known that Fulgrim retreated into the warp, where he has remained obscured from mortal sight. That is until the era of the Great Rift, where the rumors once again popped up, where he had allegedly been leading forces of the Emperor's children and other Slaaneshi adherents against the resurgent Imperium. Whether Fulgrim has truly emerged from the warp to resume his campaign against the Imperial remnants in the darkened half of the Imperium, known as Imperium Nihilus, is a matter of speculation and dreaded anticipation amongst scholars and strategists alike, as Imperial scholars delving into the annals of history fraught with heresy and betrayal. The enigma of Fulgrim stands as a testament to the enduring shadow that was cast by the traitor legions, whether he still lurks within the darkest recesses of the warp or has returned to sow chaos anew amongst the stars. The specter of Fulgrim serves as a stark reminder of the ever-present threat posed by one who once pledged loyalty to the Emperor. His tale, now intertwined with the warp-spawned horrors of Slaanesh, continues to captivate and terrify as a cautionary tale for those who seek to understand the depths of forbidden knowledge and the price of hubris in the Imperium's tumultuous history.